the 23rd. It's 5:37. And so we'll call to order. And as we say the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, I'd like you to all remember John Hancock, whose birthday was today in the year 1737. And so he signed the Declaration of Independence in such large letters so that His Majesty the King could read it without his glasses. So if you'll please stand and say the pledge with me. Right hand over our heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Not all this time, Hancock was alive. That's such a big.
Yes. Well, life insurance company, he never wanted to pay off. Okay, now is the time for public comment. This time is made available for comments from the public on matters within the Civil Service Commission's jurisdiction that are not on tonight's agenda. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. So I understand we have at least two who want, I don't know, are you here for public comment? Or? Oh, okay. So, oh, you're agendized. Oh, okay, great. So moving on, consent calendar, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the consent calendar.
I move to approve.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. Abel made the motion and Joe did the second.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't think your microphone is on.
Yes.
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 5-0 to approve.
Moving on to regular business. Item 4A, 10415, the receipt of the classification and compensation study reports conducted by Koff and Associates. So we do allow public comment at this time, 3 minutes. You like that? 3 minutes. I teach math, obviously. So if you'll step up to the lectern and please identify yourself.
My name is William Hyatt, and I actually work in IT here. Good evening, everyone. I just want to mention a few comments about the salary and compensation study. First, I want to thank HR, and I really appreciate HR committing to having Koff reanalyze the issues brought up by the department heads. As per the professional master contract number 16, that's part of what the vendor signed, Koff has represented they are qualified to perform such service with care and diligence according to accepted standards as a condition for receiving their compensation. However, I hope that Koff uses people who have more expertise at certain parts of the reanalysis than they did before. As seen on page 1149, I think just about all the IT positions were communicated as having issues in the study. Whoever Koff had working on this previously, I do not believe had the expertise to properly compare IT positions. For example, one particular IT position that Koff said is a mere 1.5% underpaid. And they also listed about half of the comparisons being no comparables that they could find. But if one looks at the counties based on the job descriptions and not just the summary or title, there are almost all of them have comparisons in the other counties. And by my looking at it, that position is actually underpaid by 16%, not just 1%. And I also hope there will be transparency about the results of the reanalysis. And those are my comments, and thanks for letting me comment.
Our next speaker.
Hello, I'm Jeevan Dosanjh. I'm a systems engineer here with Madera County. I want to begin by thanking HR for all their hard work in attempting to bring parity in pay to Madera County. And I wanted to thank Civil Service Commission for this opportunity to be heard. I have some concerns about the classification compensation study report as well. I found many comparators to have fundamental dissimilarities. I do not believe that this was done with malice, but is a byproduct of our work being quite specific, leading to a misunderstanding of the scope. To demonstrate this, I brought a copy of our job description. And I went through and I highlighted the similarities between it and the job description that they used as a comparison from Kern County. As you'll notice, there's no highlighted portions. There's literally no. Whereas I brought another one for the county of Yolo, where they found no comparison. If you look, this is their job description. It's almost completely highlighted and is able to be found within our job description that's provided by Madera County. As these, among other discrepancies, lead me to conclude that the study may not be an accurate depiction of the information. And if anyone would like a closer look, I'm able to email this to you. And again, I would like to thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Sarah Boss. I'm the Public Health Director and was out of the country in the last meeting, not able to come and talk to all of you about kind of my review and take on the study that was done by COF. First, receiving the report is super important. It's the first step in our working with HR as department heads to be able to get to the outcome that we're all hoping for, classifications that really serve the county and compensation that's appropriate for all of our team. I do want to draw attention to a couple things. There was an addendum that was provided by HR in the packet, and it included a list of the classifications in which there was feedback provided by department heads. That list, you'll note, for public health is really long. We have a lot of classifications in our department because it's a very diverse department. We just have a lot of very specific kinds of skills that are needed among our staff to be able to run a public health laboratory and do all of the clinical work as well as work that's out in the community. And so we have a lot of classifications. The one thing that was not included, well, there are two things not included in that memo that I just want to highlight that are really important for our process moving forward and wanted to bring it to your attention. And the first is that the feedback that I provided to human resources to be able to have COF do a reanalysis and us really work together included a couple additional things. 4 new classifications that we are requesting that were not discovered during the COF process. There was a limited number of interviews and things that were done with staff. And because our department is so large and so diverse, it didn't get to all of the different areas. And so there were some key places in which we need new classifications to be able to really recruit appropriately and have people's classifications really fit what it is they're doing. So that's something that HR has, and I know that review process will happen, but I just wanted to make you aware. And the other is that in the memo, the table has a title that says classifications / concerns requiring further review and analysis. And so while not explicitly stated, it kind of implies that the feedback is really around the classification part exclusively. But we provided feedback on the classification side and on the compensation side. There were several examples that we discovered similar to the comments that you've already received this evening. And so just wanted to make you aware that there are elements both on classification and on compensation that need further review after you've received the report today and we're able to go to work and really get to the right thing that's going to be settled for the county and that everyone feels comfortable moving forward with.
Thank you. Just for my clarification, you know, a while into your talk, you said 4 new classifications, and I just wanted to be sure we understand, is that FOU are 4 new classifications, not 4 FOR? So
Correct.
you meant 4 new classifications. Okay, just thank you.
Yes, thanks.
Are there any other comments? Okay. Our fine director of human resources, Roman.
Well, I want to thank staff for their valuable feedback and provide a summary on how we got to this point and provide our next steps in addressing some of the concerns. So good evening, Commissioners. Roman Noriega, Human Resources. At the November 28, 2023 Civil Service Commission meeting, Human Resources brought forward an agenda item where representative of Coffin Associates, now Gallagher, presented their final classification and compensation study reports to the commission. The representative's PowerPoint is attached for your reference under attachment A. Since the county's last classification and compensation study was conducted in 1995, the report aimed to provide a benchmark for understanding Madera County's classifications and salaries compared to other counties at the time of the analysis. While discussing the agenda item on November 28th, some department heads and other stakeholders expressed their concern and apprehension about the classification and compensation data mentioned in the report. Additionally, they raised questions about the methodology Coffin Associates used in their report. There was also concern about the amount of data in Coff's report and the lack of review time before it was presented to the commission. HR staff endeavored to clarify at the meeting that the commission was only approving the receipt of the reports and not adopting job classifications or setting forth salary that following the commission's receipt of the report, department heads could provide additional feedback to HR. Ultimately, the commission took no formal vote on the presented item on the November 28th meeting. Understanding more conversations were needed with the departments regarding their concerns with Coff's class and comp report, HR contacted each department head to identify questions or concerns regarding Coff's classification and compensation reports and or their recommendations. Detailed feedback was provided to the department. Detailed feedback provided by the department was provided to Coff for their reanalysis. A comprehensive list of the classifications identified in the feedback is documented in the attachment B. And just to answer Sarah Boss's question, yeah, I guess it's a little misleading because we only listed classifications, but that included everything that had to do with the classification, including compensation. So I apologize for not making that clear in the report. So after the commission receives the report, HR will continue interacting with departments to address their concerns regarding the reports and recommendations and plan to be as transparent as possible with the feedback that we will share out with the departments. Any proposed classification and compensation changes and additional department head feedback would be negotiated in good faith with the impacted bargaining units and brought back before the commission for your approval and or recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. So we are returning this item to the commission for your consideration to receive the report. And we're available to answer any questions.
Any comments or?
I have one curiosity. I don't know where I'm at. Page 961. It happens to be a comparison chart of 4 counties. And it seems to be audit manager, audit appraiser, internal auditor, senior internal auditor. They're all 4 that are here are different titles. Structural differences, whatever. What concerns me is that so many of the other pages that have this information have more than 4 counties that we compared to, and then all of a sudden you hit a string where there's only 3 or 4 counties that we're comparing to, where we were doing 7 or 8 or 10, whatever the number is. I didn't count them all. I haven't had time to look at it close enough, but there seems to be a disparity between how many counties they're comparing for different positions. Do you have an explanation for that?
What was explained by Coffin Associates is they did take a look at our job description and the job duties and compared it to other counties and typed in or equated it to what was written here. If they did not find a comparator, what they thought was a comparator, then it was written as NC, which is no comparator found. Not to say that we can take a second look and based on our own opinion,
I would
compare it
think
to
that
something.
the county of Kern, King, Stanislaus, Merced, Fresno would have auditors of some title there that would be fairly close to what we're doing here in Madera County. that reasoning to me is, I'd be looking for a better reason than.
Yeah. This is a higher level, and again, it's just a recommendation, and it's something that we can review internally before we make any proposals to the unit.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a comment. I wanted to, Roman gave a kind of a background on the reapproach and some of the tasks that were performed after.
They're the dissolvable kind, so it's just gonna probably change that. He's got like gauze and
There's some feedback, sorry.
this tape, adhesive tape that's waterproof, so technically I could take a shower. I just can't submerge in water, I couldn't take a bath, no jacuzzi or nothing like that.
Planning.
Could take a shower.
Somebody wants to take.
Yeah.
They have no water.
Oh,
Test. I just want to make it clear that the Civil Service Commission stance that we took last time was based off of the feedback that we got from employees.
He's sewed it up on the inside,
I feel like you guys are doing this on purpose. I'm just kidding. Try again. All right. The civil service, we're here as an outlet for the employees. And when they feel that something is being done or moved forward without a fair shot at an opinion or that is fair to them and their responsibilities, it's very pleasing that they took it upon themselves to show up. Those department heads showed up to the Civil Service Commission, giving us the opportunity to reassess and merge the different groups, right? HR, department heads, staff, employees, and the Civil Service Commission. It also gave us the opportunity to evaluate the documentation that we had received with a little bit more time, over 1,000 pages, of course. And you hear my colleague with some of those concerns after being able to kind of pry a little bit deeper. And so I do want to thank all of those individuals here today and who were present at that November meeting. And I do encourage you to continue to pay attention to these changes or future changes that are going to be made, with the understanding that this here report is a tool that's being used in order to make those decisions, right? But job classifications, descriptions, and even potential salaries do come through the Civil Service Commission and will come through at future meetings specific to each of these departments and positions. And that's another opportunity for you to approach the Civil Service Commission and voice your opinions when those final results are being submitted, are being proposed, right? We here at the Civil Service Commission focus specifically on the job allocations and the job titles and descriptions and tasks responsible by each of these employees. The salaries are then taken over to the Board of Supervisors for approval to ensure that that meets within the financials of the county. So that's two different opportunities to voice your opinions or potentially even combat the decision that has been made or the proposal that's being made for approval to the commission, the Civil Service Commission, or the Board of Supervisors. So, today, I recognize that. I think that we should pat ourselves on the back as a Civil Service Commission for giving our teams, both staff and HR teams, the opportunity to reconvene, get on the same page, create a little bit more synergy with all of this. And as we move forward, I think we all have a better understanding of what's to come and how important it is for people who have concerns to attend such meetings. Because the same way we heard your concerns then, we will continue to hear those concerns and we will take them seriously and do what we can to ensure that everybody feels comfortable about it and the best decision for the county is being made. So with that, I move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion and we'll get your.
Excuse me,
Yes,
we do have a public comment from Susan Carter,
okay. Where is Susan?
and she is via Zoom.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm sorry that I was causing problems earlier with your feedback. Didn't realize that when I unmuted that did that. I just wanted to kind of add real quick so that there was no confusion to Tom's question. And you know what? I've never done this. Let me make sure that everybody's aware. My name is Susan Carter. I'm a human resources manager in human resources. But to address Commissioner Fry's question about the specific non-comparators or NCs on some of those pages. Sabrina, you responded well. I just want to add to that and to say that COF had shared with us that there might be positions that do some of the duties in other counties when they were doing the comparison to the two positions in other counties. But if they didn't see a 70% or more match in the duties, then they listed it as a county didn't have a comparator classification. So there still might be a position in another county that's doing similar work, but it wasn't, at least in their mind, 70% of the work comparable to ours. And that's why they didn't list them as comparators. But we can certainly, as Sabrina said, request that they reanalyze that specific position, just to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Okay. We have a motion. I'm looking for a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any additional commissioner comments?
My only comment was addressed in what Roman said, that this is not set in stone. It is a place for them to begin to analyze what needs to be done with our classifications in it.
Okay. Joe?
I have an
Oh.
additional question for Roman. Some of these, they talk about changing titles and stuff like that. Is this a time and place that we can maybe make our job descriptions a little more comparable to the counties that we want to be compared to? I.e. the ones that are NC on some of these charts, do we need to make adjustments, or that's just going to be what you got to deal with? Because every county is different.
So the comparator agencies were actually chosen. They were chosen by both the board, and we did give an opportunity for bargaining units to provide an opportunity, or provided an opportunity for them to also give us comparator agencies. And so then a list was compiled. So in future, it wasn't necessarily determined by the job titles.
Right,
So
but
in the-
if they're changing the title, or that was some of the recommendations on here, if I read it right, are about changing the titles or the job, not necessarily the job description. But if, to get comparables in other counties, do we need to assess, and is this the right time to also assess what our job descriptions are, so we're a little more closely matched to get to that 70 percentile?
And they may have changed during the review process and the updating of job descriptions. Some of those job duties may have changed from what they were. So they were focusing on the body of work that was being performed currently. And of course, it can change. So it is fluid. It's always changing. And so it can be reevaluated later. Again, as in any case, this is, it's not set in stone. It can change in 6 months. It can change in a year. It just depends on business needs and what is changing. And we can always reevaluate if we need to. So I don't think I answered your question entirely. I think I went a little off, but.
No, you're right, and I knew the answer already, but because these job descriptions change all the time in every county, it could be just based on what the workload is that they might change it. So it might be hard to hit that moving target every time we do one of these compensation studies.
Yeah, and Commissioner Fry, from my understanding, the title itself doesn't go into the weight of that 70%. So
Correct.
it's more so the
Correct.
job descriptions.
That's correct.
And also we have a comment from Susan Carter.
Is that the same?
Yeah, that's all right.
She only gets 1 3-minute.
Sorry, I was going to add to that in the sense of we determine our job descriptions based on the work that's being performed in Madera County. So just because there's another position out there in another county, we would not create our job description to match theirs. We would create it to fit what our current jobs are, what duties are being performed in Madera County. So we may have one person doing a couple of duties that fall in another county's two separate job descriptions. So it really is based off of what we're doing and not what others are doing. But for these types of studies, we do compare to others to see if they do have positions that are similar. And if they're 70% or more, they would then be considered comparable. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Oh, thank you, Susan. Any other comments?
Yeah, and just to comment on what Susan said, we're also going to work with the departments to make sure these changes fit into their operational needs. And that's part of the interacting we're going to do with the departments as we discuss any potential changes to any job descriptions, titles, job duties, before we implement anything. And of course, it needs to go before the bargaining unit to negotiate.
Super. Anybody else? There being none, we have a motion, we have a second, so let's call the roll.
We have the mover, Commissioner Perez,
Yes.
and then second, Commissioner Fry,
Yes.
and Commissioner Rios,
Yes.
and then Commissioner Iverson,
Yes.
and last, Commissioner Atwood.
Yes.
5-0 vote to approve.
Those of you who made comments, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, our next item, item 4B, 10377, the election of president and vice president for 2024. And
Good evening.
it's your
Commissioners.
turn.
Good evening, Commissioners. Sabrina Mendez, Department of Human Resources. Our recommendation is to continue with our past practice for the election of having our president and vice president serve in inverse order of their district. This would elect District 4, Commissioner Rios as our next president. After conferring with Commissioner Rios, because of possible scheduling conflicts, our recommendation is to elect the next succeeding person, who would be Commissioner Perez. And then this would have Commissioner Fry as vice president. Thoughts?
And who knows vice?
May I add two comments? Basically, what's happening to me right now at this point, I've been dealing with Veterans Administration with the hospital. The problem that I have with them is that I schedule something and then they reschedule. And so actually what happens when they reschedule, they tell me they're going to be there. Like this Friday, I had an appointment and they called me and said, the doctor's not going to be available. So I'm going to have to reschedule again for another 2 weeks. So basically what's happening is that my problem is that not that I don't want to come to the meetings, it's that when they schedule me and then they reschedule me again, or the doctor's not available, something that was coming up, and a lot of times it falls at the time that we're having a meeting, just like this last meeting that we're supposed to have, and I was unable to do it. My health is very important to me.
As it
Okay.
should be, yes.
I have 4 procedures that are going to be done to me within the past, not within the past, but within 4 or 5 months. So regardless whether or not you have a meeting, if I can attend it, I will. If I have the opportunity to reschedule with them, which I've done before, I'll reschedule with them in order for me to be able to come to the meeting. But I do not want to hinder the commission. That's the only thing that bothers me. Okay.
Well, Commissioner
And I do not
Joe,
want, and I don't want to do something that I'm not going to be able to participate.
and I know I speak on behalf of the other commissioners and the HR department, the appreciation of such a selfless act that you put the county ahead of your personal, and so thank you. And I think we're all in shock that any doctor's office would ever reschedule any appointment.
Well, the point is that right now,
But,
to be honest with you, I feel that Veterans Administration are going through their issues. My primary care doctor right now that I have, gonna be leaving.
okay,
It's a she. So now I gotta deal with another doctor.
good luck.
So,
So
Yeah,
I
good
don't
luck.
want your medical history
but
into the
regardless, I
record.
want you to understand that if I can reschedule something that's gonna benefit me, or there's a meeting when I don't have something scheduled, yeah, I'll be here. That's no problem.
Okay, thank you. So yes,
If I might make a question. There's nothing that would preclude us, assuming Joe gets healthy and wants to become the president, that we could flip it back next year after a year's term, go back, other than me taking it over again.
Right, we can do that. We can
We
make
can be
that
flexible.
recommendation, yes.
Yeah.
Well, every year it's an agenda item and we have them,
Correct.
we
Right.
move to approve it or modify it.
Yes, based on what we're recommending. And so of course we can, it's a discussion
Yeah.
that we can have.
okay, so we have a motion and a second. So, correct?
Had a
Did,
motion.
did we do that?
We had a
Nobody motioned.
recommendation.
Okay, so we need a motion? Somebody, otherwise you're stuck with me.
I'll move the recommendation of the HR.
I second the motion, even the one that's causing the problem.
Okay, so,
I second it.
so the motion will elect Commissioner Perez as president and Commissioner Fry as vice president.
Correct.
One thing I like to say, he's very capable. I know he's very capable.
Are you pointing at me or him?
So, no, not you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm able.
Here, I'll lean
Able.
back.
Abel is a very capable
Abel's a very
person,
smart
so-
guy, very smart.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe, for your endorsement
So,
and your,
Doing what
your
needs to
vote.
be done.
okay, so here we go. Okay, if we'll call the roll.
Yes, so we have Commissioner Fry as a mover,
Yes.
and then seconder Commissioner Rios.
Yes.
And then we have Commissioner Perez,
Yes.
and then Commissioner Iverson,
Yes.
and last Commissioner Atwood.
Yes,
We have a 5-0 vote to approve.
super. Okay. What kind of a campaign party was that? Here we go. Staff reports.
We have no reports this evening.
Okay. Before we adjourn, I want to thank you all for the opportunity to have served as the president of this commission. I want to thank the HR folks so much. You make this job so much easier, and your openness and your talents are so appreciated. And I just wish the residents of the county knew how hard you work in this reclassification study. How long have you been working on it? 2 years or 3 years? And it's just,
A year and a half.
yeah, but it seems like 10
Almost
years.
two.
And so I do want to thank all of you. And, it has been a lot of fun. So with that in mind, I said I was going to give a farewell address, and I am. We're at 200 West 4th Street, Madera, California. That's the farewell address. I thought it was funny. So,
You're always very colorful.
hey, I toned down. Thank you all very much. The meeting stands adjourned.
Okay, do.
That's it.